It's the fall of 2015, and one of my workshop facilitators at the Illinois Council for Social Studies Conference has taken my colleagues and I back to a time after the Civil War. He has explained to us that a group of neighboring towns is having a bit of a dilemma. Water supplies in certain towns were making people sick. Families were being forced to relocate. Businesses were being shut down. Panic was all around. Was this the doomsday that the preacher at the local church had promised? At this point, our facilitator handed maps to all of us, and we began jotting down notes of the cases of the poisoned water. On the map, we recorded the pH levels in the water and where they had been found. After investigating, we started to piece together the clues. We found there was a pattern in all of the chaos. All of the bad water appeared to be coming downward from the old cemetery, where all of the Civil War heroes were born. Later, we would learn that it was arsenic, a poisonous chemical element that was once used to embalm bodies transported during the war that was responsible. We made suggestions to shut down certain wells until the mess was cleaned up, while others were allowed to stay open. Later, our facilitator will explain to us that this was a sample integrative social studies / technology / science lesson. I was blown away. I immediately thought about how integrative curriculum could be used in classrooms. Then I went home and didn't see that happening anywhere. Why? Like the example from the workshop, my professional research question comes from a place of curiosity. When implementing an integrative teaching strategy in a middle school classroom setting, how are grades applied and time slots for content areas justified and accounted for when the lines between disciplines are non-existent? In just about every classroom that I can ever remember stepping into, I've noticed two things. One, each discipline is mandated a certain amount of time for the learning segment. Two, there's a grade tied to each of those disciplines that is usually derived directly from the body of work that the students complete from the assessment. Therefore, if integrative curriculum requires that you blend all of your subject matter into one, how can a teacher provide an appropriate grade to each discipline? Furthermore, how do you justify the time slots that have been mandated from the administration and/or government? Solution 1. Different teachers from different discipline areas each evaluate his or her subject-specific part of an assessment task. According to Susan Drake, a professor in the Department of Graduate and Undergraduate Studies in Education at Brock University in Ontario, Canada, and well-known advocate for integrative curriculum, if teachers work together to construct the assessments, each teacher can take turn grading their specific section of an assessment. In the example from her book, Creating Standards-Based Integrated Curriculum, the teachers created the assessments and their rubrics together. Therefore, once students completed the assessment, their teachers will take turns grading their sections, and students will receive a grade for each section for each discipline. In a middle school classroom, this would work really well when students are creating fair projects that will require all of their teachers to view all of their work at the same time. I like this idea because it emphasizes that teachers need to continue to work together. Solution number 2, focus on one discipline at a time. This idea is a little less complex and may work for teachers who are required to create their own assessments. In this solution, Drake states that only one of the subjects is being tested, while content and other elements from other disciplines help to bring familiarity to the theme and the issues that were discussed in class. Number 3. One teacher can focus on it all. This is probably my least favorite of the ideas. Although Drake states that the teacher has the option to choose which standards they would like to choose, it sounds like a lot of legwork and doesn't take in consideration that multiple heads tackling various topics is much better than one. Furthermore, this is especially true when the other brains in the room focus on those particular subjects. This is unlikely to happen in any middle school that I've experienced. Solution number 4, rubrics. In a 2009 Journal of Higher Education article, Veronica Mansilla and her colleagues suggested that teachers can use rubrics to assist them to assess interdisciplinary writing. This idea can be connected back to Drake's first solution, where all the teachers are working together to create the assessment and the tools that they will use to assess it. I believe that this is a great idea, as long as each teacher has the authority to create the rubric that they feel best captures evidence of learning. Rubrics are great when students have the opportunity to read them in advance and use them as guides. However, rubrics can occasionally cause some discrepancies when certain bodies of work appear to fall in between one level and the next. However, for our purposes, I think this will work. Deborah Short added that while working with ESL students, it can be difficult to provide student grades when several of the areas of learning are intertwined. Solution number 5, performance assessments. In 2002, Donald Stowe, author of the Assessment Update Journal entry, Assessing Interdisciplinary Programs, suggested using performance assessments. This idea can work well for certain projects, especially if students are required to show their notes and findings in a portfolio or presentation. Research findings, time allotment. I did not find any relevant information on how to deal with the time constraint issue. However, I think that teachers need to consider the amount of time that students must spend on each activity to provide them with a basic foundation. From there, a teacher can build routines that will justify how students are spending their time around the classroom. By doing so, teachers will be able to meet both the state's mandates and ensure that each student is getting the time that they need to continue to grow. Integrated curriculum is something that I am interested in learning more about. I think that resembles how we learn and experience life. Therefore, it may be helpful to unlocking new alternatives to reaching our students.